Leave No Child Behind. That is today's theme, July 30th, 2024, for World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. In 2013, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution designating today, July 30th, as the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons and declared that such a day was necessary to raise awareness of the situation of victims of human trafficking and for the promotion and protection of their rights. Today, we come together as warriors in this fight to abolish all forms of human slavery, collaboration, creative success. I say comes from true collaboration. And we have to talk about these devastating human rights abuses. The public must understand what is happening right under our noses. Slavery is happening in every town, city, and rural area across America. There are no exemptions. So what are we going to do about all of this? Well, I'm going to introduce you to Alison Boak, the new executive director of LifeWay Network, based right here in New York City. LifeWay is a proven program that helps human trafficking victims reclaim their lives. It is a program that I can't promote enough of because it works. So we're going to be discussing all of this and how you can help LifeWay. And our new executive director at LifeWay, Allie Boak, how you can help her. It's a very special day. The website is lifewaynetwork.org. Let's do it. Alison Boak, welcome to the Warriors.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynn. It's such an honor to be here today, and especially on this, very, very important day in the anti-trafficking fight.
I mean, absolutely. I am so thrilled to share your voice and your decades. And I say that because I am, when I say in awe of the work you have created from the time, you were a young woman, still a young woman, doing amazing amount of what I call boots on the ground, creating impact, which is what is needed with all of this exploitation and abuse. But first, before we jump in, tell us a little bit about Alison Boak. What do you want to share? Anything you want, your history, your childhood, just a little tidbit to, whet our appetites about Alison Boak.
Thank you. Life works in mysterious ways, and often you may have one plan for how you think your life is going to go, and then something happens and it completely changes the trajectory of your life. When I was a young college graduate, I decided to apply to the Peace Corps and was accepted to go to the Baltic states. I was living in Latvia. For those of you who are not sure where the Baltic states are, it borders Russia. And Russia had just ended a 50-year occupation of the Baltic states, and they were looking for English as second language teachers. So I went over to teach English to the young folks in Latvia. And this is really where my life changed because I discovered human trafficking. So I didn't actually know it at the time, but I spent 3 years teaching youth in middle school, high school, university level. And what was happening at the time, unbeknownst to us, is we were inviting different organizations in to provide opportunities to young people. People in the Baltics had not been able to travel. They didn't have access to Western media, things like that. And some of the players that we were inviting in to what we thought was give the youth opportunity were actually trafficking the youth. So, for example, we had agencies in that were looking for models. We had summer camp programs. We had programs that were looking for summer workers. And, we invited them into the schools thinking they were going to help give the youth opportunities and provide them with some resources. And it turns out that some of them were not so friendly. And in fact, I learned when I had some funding from the United Nations Development Program to return to Latvia and do an educational program that the youth from Latvia were actually disappearing. They were being trafficked all over the world. And I just decided, I needed to do something about that. And I was in grad school at the time. And so some of my colleagues from Columbia University School of Public Health, we started an organization that was focused on preventing the trafficking of young people. So it's very apropos for the day today that was really our focus, and that is still the focus, because since COVID, especially, young people are at such increased risk of human trafficking now more than ever. So that's kind of how I started working on this anti-trafficking journey. And since then, I worked 18 years focused on trafficking at IOFA. I helped the Global Center on Human Trafficking at Montclair State University start up their program recently. Founded the Freedom Network USA, which is one of the most comprehensive networks of anti-trafficking, trauma-informed service providers across the country. And I'm just so honored to pick up the reins at LifeWay Network. It's my third week on the job here, and I've just jumped in with both feet, meeting all of LifeWay's amazing partners in this fight against human trafficking.
You are a warrior woman. I don't know. Your life so far reads like a movie script, but we'll leave that for another program. I mean, as you're sitting here, relaying all of this information, it's just incredible, incredible. This passion, this drive that you have. I want to jump into LifeWay, but before I do, tell us if you could sum up today, because to me, every day needs to be, Human Trafficking Awareness Day. We know all of this, but what does this particular day, July 30th, and it was only 11 short years ago when the UN came up with this resolution, which is just like yesterday to me. What exactly does the day mean to you and to LifeWay Network?
Well, this day is so important to draw attention to this issue, which is a $150 billion industry. And we throw that number around to try to explain to people how huge this industry is. But the only industry, illicit industry in the world that makes more money than human trafficking is the drug trade. And it really continues to blow my mind, having worked in this field for 20 plus years, that we still don't have more resources and more attention to address this crime holistically. This day is such an important time to think about where we've been in the anti-trafficking movement, the progress we've made, the progress we have not made, and what we really need to do in the future. And I'm so excited to see how the future is really about engaging survivors and lived experience professionals in this work. I'm someone who's worked in more than 23 countries to address human trafficking, and there's so few resources, and nothing drives me more crazy than seeing people doing the same thing over and over again without really having a measurable impact. Unfortunately, less than 3% of cases of human trafficking are prosecuted, and the traffickers are operating for the large part with impunity. So we really need to rethink how we're addressing this issue. We need to come up with more innovative solutions. And I think the main way to do that is to really engage survivors and lived experience professionals themselves. So that's something that I'm very committed to. I'm committed to engaging more survivor leadership and engagement at LifeWay Network. A little bit about LifeWay Network. We are an organization that addresses two very critical needs in the anti-trafficking movement. One is raising awareness, which we're a strong partner of Lynn's Warriors about. If you don't know that human trafficking exists, how can you address it? How can you do your part? And the second thing is that we work to provide safe housing for survivors. We provide short-term emergency housing, transitional housing, semi-independent housing. We've served over 100 women from more than 24 countries to date. But we don't just provide housing. We have a very unique community living model. We're not a shelter. We're actually a very comprehensive program where women can stay up to a year and work in partnership with our social workers and our partner case managers to really have a comprehensive, holistic approach. Unfortunately, Lynn, the traffickers really offered the victims everything from housing to food to clothing. And providing stable housing is really the very first step upon which everything else builds in terms of a survivor getting out of the trafficking situation. If they don't have a place to live, they're extremely vulnerable to re-trafficking. If they have housing instability, they can't keep a job if they're constantly moving around. They can't attend services like health services, mental health services, if they're not living in a stable place. So LifeWay really offers that stability from which survivors can build back to a life of independence. So that's really, really what we're focused on.
You gave me so much to think about when you just said that, because the number one thing I'm always thinking about or hearing about from survivors and working with them is safe spaces.
That's
Constantly,
right.
I for the first time, somebody will say to me, I could put my head on a pillow. We take all that for granted. The public. They don't understand that we no longer, I am determined, and I know you are, Allie, we can't keep slapping this Band-Aid on everything. And I've never been trafficked. I feel very lucky, but I do know that the survivors, when I first started doing this, I didn't understand. Like, they didn't get paid, or somebody gave them a gift card to Target, and I was like, I don't understand that model, because I can't do my work unless we have their voices, their experiences to help us mold and create things for success. So I'm right there with you about the survivors. I think that is a platform that needs to be built out. Again, how can we do our work without their voices, their input, and making them feel valued, right? Because as you pointed out, we can't have people going back. So many go back into trafficking because it's all they know, right? And it's easy for them to do. And we've got these predators hanging around all the time. How have you seen this grow? It's 2024. I feel like, Allie, every day it's changing. It's almost like we're 10 steps behind, because these predators, criminals, and again, there's so much money to be made. That's the bottom line for all of this. How have you really seen it change in just the last few years, in particular, the whole trafficking environment?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about them being 10 steps ahead of us. I recently worked with the University of North Texas and some other law enforcement partners to prepare a proposal about the intersection of technology, human trafficking, and how that impacts the future lives of survivors. So what I've seen that's really, I think, kind of been changing is the way that traffickers so adeptly use technology. I mean, they are able to apply for credit in the names of survivors. They are able to open bank accounts jointly with survivors. They really manipulate the digital assets of a survivor and almost can take over their identity. And, so when you think about rebuilding the life of a survivor, it's more and more complicated. So we see that traffickers are increasingly using forced criminality, where they're forcing survivors to commit crimes, to bring in money or resources or carry drugs or whatever it might be for the traffickers, leaving criminal records for many of the survivors that need to be expunged. And some states don't even have expungement laws yet. But technology is where I see the biggest increase in terms of usage of traffickers, everywhere from moving their money, different apps, cash apps and things to, that they're paid on, to assuming the digital identities of the survivors. We really need to get a handle of how traffickers are using technology to manipulate, to control, to stalk, and to really ruin the futures of survivors. I mean, think about if you try to go to school or you try to get a job, or you try to rent an apartment. If your credit is ruined, if you have a criminal record, if you have postings up on a website that you don't control anymore, that are inappropriate, that your trafficker controls, almost like your whole identity is taken. And it's very hard for survivors to move forward unless we address all of these comprehensively.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to, there are so many different scenarios and real life cases and stories of, putting somebody in jail when they were merely kind of the tool. I don't mean to break it down just like that, of these traffickers, these criminals who get women and men and children are involved, to do their dirty work. I'll break it down into that, which leads me back to LifeWay and the program being holistic. I want you, Allie, to really explain the importance. You touched upon it. What does LifeWay look like in one of the houses? Run us through a day.
Sure.
And what is Survivor? Some of them are there, some of them go out to work during the day. I really want to drive this home. People have to understand how this model really works and how everybody's welcome to participate and help us, because I really think, Allie, and I don't want to give you more work because you just started this new job. But and I've thought this in my mind before, it is a model that works, therefore it needs to be expanded into all 50 states. But we'll start with just,
it really,
I don't want to
really
give you too much work, but it's the model that works. I'm all about, again, you used the word with me the other day, impact works. That's what I want to see. Take actions that work, not just reaction. take actions, the real proof. So run us through this whole day in LifeWay, because I think there's kind of, if somebody says, safe houses, or there's kind of this mystery around it. They don't really understand
Sure.
it.
No, I'd be very happy to. And I first want to start by pointing out about what we are not, because sadly, too many survivors of trafficking are forced to go into different kinds of shelters. And what happens in a shelter is you can't be there often during the day. You can't bring in food. You can't have your own schedule. It's almost like survivors have explained it to me again and again that many times shelters are like trafficking all over again. Every aspect of your life is being controlled, from your bedtime to when you can be in your home, to what you can eat, when you can go to the bathroom, things like that. And so we try to be the antithesis of that. We are a community housing program where we try to create a sense of family, a sense of home, a sense of comfort and safety. So the first thing you'd notice about one of our safe homes is you wouldn't even know that it is a safe home, because it would blend right in with the neighborhood. So our safe homes are in beautiful brick houses that are multi-story houses. We have one in the Bronx and one in the Queens. They have really cute front yards with little wrought iron gates. And you'd walk up steps and enter a home just like you would your neighbor's home. You would not know from the outside that this is a safe home, though we do have a security system in place. But other than that, you would not know that this is anything different. When you walk in, we would look like, your grandmother's house. We'd have a living room with soft couches and pillows and TV and a laptop. We have a dining area that's just like your grandmother's dining room, with a big old dining room table and some wooden chairs and a hutch with dishes. We have a kitchen like you'd find in your house, with microwave, fridge, stove. It really looks like the normal living quarters of, say, your grandmother's or the house you grew up in. Very comfortable, very cozy. And then on other floors, we have each survivor either has their own room or shares a room with one other person. And each room can lock, so they have privacy. And each floor has a bathroom or two, and the survivors share the bathrooms. And then down in the basement, we have an office, and we have some space for what we call host community. So right now in one of our homes, we have two wonderful nuns that are here staying, one from Australia, one from Canada. And they spend the night so that the house is never empty, so that there's always someone, if anybody needs to talk, needs a friendly hand, has an issue, there's always someone there to help them. We have social workers that come in on a regular basis and meet with our survivors to come up with some goals and some plans. Many of our survivors, in one home, you'll find survivors there, sometimes during the day working on their resumes or having a tutoring session. In one of our other homes, almost everyone in the home is working right now. So it's actually very quiet during the day while everybody is out to work. We do have a community dinner at least once a week, where the whole community comes together to do a workshop and to break bread and cook together. So we really are trying to foster a sense of camaraderie, a sense that you're not alone in this, and, sense of support. I've heard over and over again from survivors that I've worked with that some of the greatest supports they've ever had are from other survivors who really understand, what they've been through, what traumas they've had, and what they've experienced, and can really support each other, trying to rebuild their lives or build their lives. So it really is a very welcoming environment, and it works. Our data that we have so far is that our graduates report that they have increased self-esteem, they have increased trust, they have increased feeling of safety, an increased sense of optimism for the future. And while these may seem like some basic things, it's really hard to move on in your future and get a job, get an education, get into a healthy relationship if you don't have some of these fundamental aspects to your being. The women have also reported that they have decreased post-traumatic stress syndrome after being part of our program, and they have increased suicide ideation, which is huge. Unfortunately, the suicide rate among survivors of trafficking is way above the normal rate. So, we're really proud of our program. We think it's very unique, and it does work based on our self-reported data from our survivors and the number of survivors that continue to work with us and to promote our program. We do have graduates working in some of our homes. And you did ask a very important question, Lynn. How can the public support us? How can you get involved? And we really do need the public support and help. I mean, this crime is everywhere, and we cannot do it alone. We really need everyone involved. So there are many ways that listeners or viewers can get involved. So Lynn had given our website, lifewaynetwork.org. When you go to our website, you will see a bunch of resources that you can share with people in your community. We have newsletters, we have a student club activity guide, we have presentations on internet safety, for example. You can follow us on social media. We're at LifeWay Network to keep up on what we're doing and where we need help. We always need volunteers. We train volunteers and do a background check so that volunteers can get involved in our safe homes. We need tutors. Oftentimes our survivors could use English as second language tutoring, tutoring in different aspects. They need help putting their resumes together, their cover letters, and searching for jobs. There's so many ways volunteers can come in and provide a yoga class, for example, do a book study. There's many different ways we can engage survivors or engage volunteers in our program. We do have a mailing list that we don't bombard you with lots of extra stuff, but we definitely keep you in the loop on the latest in terms of anti-trafficking and in terms of our work at the LifeWay Network. And of course, we always, always, always need donations. As you can imagine, oftentimes these survivors come to our home with nothing, maybe the clothes on their back, which may not even be appropriate for the season. So we need to provide everything from a hygiene kit to new sheets and towels, to clothing, to transportation, groceries. We like to give the survivors autonomy, and they can make their own grocery lists. And they need a lot of assistance getting jobs. So all of your donations go directly to helping us support the survivors in our program. So please do reach out. Again, that was lifewaynetwork.org.
Don't worry, I'm having everything in the body of the video, every link.
Great.
So people can take their time and read. I load up the bodies of these videos. Also, there's an Amazon wish list that things can be purchased for the home. And, people also have to understand, actually, anybody can do anything. There is always something that is needed. You may have a business that can partner in some fashion. We agree, donations, money makes the world go round. This is what is needed to keep homes growing, operating, building. But besides that, almost everything could fit into LifeWay in some way, shape, or form. You may have a grocery store. You may have something where you can deliver, a little extra, food or something. You can tack it onto your order. So nothing's off the table here. Everything.
And the survivors, you bring up a good point, Lynn. We always want to expose the survivors to new experiences. Many of them have been in captivity for months, years.
Right.
So we're always trying to organize outings. Like last week, they went bowling, for example. So you could sponsor an outing, or if you, like you said, if you own a business, invite us in to bring the survivors for an activity, a meal. We would absolutely take advantage of that.
I just thought of like 10 new ideas, but I'll let you know about them later. As you're talking.
Good.
Now,
thank you for being one of our best spokespersons. We're so grateful.
No, but there's just so much, because when something works, Allie, I'm going to be brutally honest here. This is my opinion. Most things I'm tired of. I'm tired of talking about how bad everything is. We already all know that, right? We need change, true change, right? This is also not what I call a 9-to-5 job. You're either in it all the way to make a difference, or you're not. Now, I'm just going to not go off on a rant on you on this, but let's talk about, that reminds me, collaboration. Because silly me, Allie, thought when I started all of this, because I had to start it, like there was no way I couldn't address this and start talking about it, and just education, raise awareness. I thought everybody would be on board. Like, we're all going to come together because there's power in numbers, and we're going to stick up for each other. And then I found out, which happens in most businesses, everybody's kind of into their own thing and overwhelmed and busy and fighting for dollars. I still believe true collaboration will make the difference. What do you have to say about all this?
Absolutely. LifeWay could not do our work without some fabulous partners that refer to us and support through case management. So I want to give a shout out to Safe Horizon, to Restore, to My Sister's Place, to Sanctuary for Families. These are some of our key partners that, every organization can't provide housing, and every housing program is not right for every survivor. So when they have a client that they think would benefit from our model, they make referrals. And when we make referrals and accept referrals from our partners, it's not just a goodbye. Their case managers stay involved with that client. They work collaboratively with our social workers and our house managers and our team to really ensure what is best for that survivor. So you can't say it too much, the value of partnerships. It is a bit of a cliche in the anti-trafficking world that no one organization can do it alone, but it's so true. It's so true. And things work best when each organization kind of has their expertise that they excel at, that's their thing, that they do well and do 1,000%, like you said. And then we share resources, share experience, collaborate. That's really the only way to go. Because this crime, it is everywhere, like you mentioned. I've had multiple cases in my literally own backyard in my small town in Westchester, New York. I used to, when I was teaching at CUNY, I had taught a seminar there on human trafficking. And every day as I traveled from my home in suburbia to CUNY, which is in Harlem, I would find something that I could stop and say, this could potentially be human trafficking. Once you open your eyes and get trained to what human trafficking is, you will see it all around you and you can't escape it. I used to think that human trafficking was, the mafia and Russians, smoking cigars outside of nightclubs. But unfortunately, I have worked on cases where people are trafficked by their parents, by their church, by their coaches, by their teachers, by business leaders, by boyfriends, by people that you just can't imagine would be engaged in human trafficking. So I also really want to encourage everybody watching this show to get educated. There's a lot of human trafficking 101s out there. You can request a training on the LifeWay Network website. We offer free trainings. There's a form you can fill out. We will come to you, your organization, and organize either a virtual or in-person training for you, because that is really the best way. And that's why education is together with safe housing for us, because we really can only combat this crime when everyone knows about it. Right now, it still is a very hidden crime. And a lot of people, they don't really understand what human trafficking is. They kind of think the sexy sex trafficking that they see in movies. But if they really understand, labor trafficking, as well as commercial sexual exploitation of children, it would really open up a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah. And Allie, they're horrified when we do explain this is happening right here in your community, could be right next door. And people have clutched their chests. We're here in the middle of New York City. You think people might be a little savvier. It is education and raising awareness. Sounds very simple. That's where it begins. Finish us up, Allie, with what do you see the future for LifeWay? What do you want? Can you reveal what's in your dream world? I mean, besides the Warriors winning the lottery and giving you all the money.
Listen, I am a big thinker. I'm a visionary, and our program is needed everywhere. We have 2 safe homes in the Metro New York City area, but I do a lot of training and presentations and things, out of this area around the country. And unfortunately, housing is one of the biggest needs everywhere for survivors of trafficking, and particularly housings with our model. This is what is really needed. So I think, our plan is to strengthen our existing model and really set it up and try to replicate it in other areas, especially underserved areas, rural areas, areas where there's Indigenous people, underserved populations. Another goal of mine is just really to continue to keep our staff trained in best practices, especially of trauma-informed care. As you said earlier, this field is changing and moving, and I want to bring more expertise from lived experience, from survivors into the work that we do. And we also want to increase our outreach. Like we were just talking about, everyone needs to know about this issue. And with education being one of our primary programs, our goal is just to increase our reach, especially focusing on youth. And that's very timely with today's, special day, UN Day, and the focus being on children. I've done this a really long time, and, my heart is in prevention. If we can prevent young people and the age is getting lower, I heard about a case the other day, of a 9-year-old, we need to do this young. We need to educate young people how to be safe online, how to interact online, who to go to if something feels unsafe, and how to protect themselves. And we need to do it young. So that's kind of my ending message. Like, let's get all of our children, let's get the schools more engaged. You don't need to be afraid of trafficking because it says sex trafficking. There's labor trafficking as well. But young people need to be educated and know what to do and where to go.
Well, I'll just add to that, Allie. When people sort of, come back to me and say, well, I'm afraid, I don't want to talk about that to my child, or I'm opening the door, or no, because they're learning everything. Let's be real here. Here's the reality. They're learning everything online or from their peers. So let
That's
us
right.
let us be the leaders, right? Let us be the educators. Let us provide the facts. Let us provide the safe talk kind of thing and educate everybody out there. I have a lot of grandparents that come to me, and they have a lot of time on their hands. Actually, excellent volunteers for perhaps LifeWay. So
Yes.
there's no, as I say, there's no embarrassment, because trafficking is all over the place. It could be forced servitude. It can be forced begging, which I'm seeing. That's another program I'm seeing a lot of these days in New York City. Kids out on the streets, they should be in school and they're selling candy bars, 1 o'clock in
That's
the
right.
afternoon. But everybody is talking about everything. Why? Our passion and focus needs to be on this human trafficking, this slavery, and on LifeWay Network, which works. Allie Boak, we have to speak again much more frequently because so many things are happening. You are the new executive director of LifeWay Network. I want to thank you for your entire career and your commitment and your dedication for helping to keep all people, especially our vulnerable kids, safe. And you and your team at LifeWay, the programs, the education, the safe housing, the building out, raising awareness. This, our hashtag here at the Warriors is community creates change. We very much believe in grassroots prevention, as you pointed out, intervention. And we are looking forward to, I don't mind saying this, Allie, a mind-blowing collaboration with you. We are here to help you raise awareness in any way possible. And warriors out there, you have no excuse not to follow along. LifeWayNetwork.org. Instagram, also on X. I still call it Twitter. I'll have all this information, Ellie, in the body of the video. There are so many issues we must stay on top of. I want to thank you on this very important day, this World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and leaving no child behind in the fight for human trafficking. I am designating you, Allie Boak, our Warrior of the Day.
Thank you, Lynn. And thank you for your tremendous partnership and all that you bring and the Warriors bring to this fight against human trafficking. And go get them.
Thank you. And I know you're going to go get them. So let us speak again soon. Thanks, Allie.
Great. Thank you so much.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thank you, everyone.